Hi all, and welcome back to my channel of an everyday life of an Aspie. If you're watching me right now, I'm Aspie and I'm all about creating mental health and awareness and sharing my life stories with Asperger's syndrome and the like, along with tips and advice along the way for you guys for the general health. This is your mental health. So as we brought to my attention, as I said, I'm trying to do as many of the Autism Man series, and in saying this, that I'm going to just differentiate something right now on the next topic, which is, knowing the difference between a tantrum and a meltdown, because obviously there has been some misunderstanding to what it is and whatnot, and I want to make it clear and easy to understand for you all, because that's what I'm here for, to educate you all as well as to mentor you and to advocate for the ones that are on the spectrum. This one's basically to remove any of the misunderstandings based on these two parallels, because they mean different obviously, and in saying this, that it's important to differentiate between the two of the actual definition for this, obviously, and like they may look the same, but as I said, they obviously tend to have different meanings. So the first one is tantrum, to define, as well as the meltdowns, so to get into it before the differences. So the quick definition for this is, for a tantrum, it is defined as an uncontrolled outburst of anger and frustration, typically in a young child. Usually a tantrum is also characterized usually of a child's stubbornness, crying, screaming, defiance, anger ranting. Sometimes they'll end up kicking, maybe cussing at the parent or what have you, depending on the age of the child. This is the most common form of problematic behaviors that is in young children for it to happen for these tantrums. On the other hand, meltdowns is defined as, however, is when a young person or child is transitioning of something that seems really impossible for them, of some form of challenge that has to be faced. Classic example, if they're transitioning from intermediate to high school, and they have this series of having to try and still get into routine, and their routine has been disrupted obviously, and then they have another terms of events that during their day they'll have tests and exams, and everything just piles up on them, and it tends to really tend to clog them up and cause them so much frustration and whatnot. And maybe in some parts, while they're at it, they may be scared, afraid. Maybe they could, in the meltdown, they could just be really upset, and leading to the point of all this happenings of what's happening is basically tending on sensory overload for them, of the state of it. And then in saying this, I believe the greater the fear and likelihood of a young person that is being faced with these everyday challenges, obviously the greater fear of and likelihood of maybe that child or young person to regress, pretty much. This could also be a breakdown of self-control, as from fatigue or overstimulation, basically sending someone into a state of overdrive, as I said, of a sensory overload, with these classic examples. So with the sensory overload, obviously, it's too much, sensory information that's going on at once, making it hard for the person to process what's going on with the, internal and external stimuli that's going on around them. So, like I said, it will just drive them into that state. However, and sometimes, it will come to the point of that fright response for them, and probably given by choice of how the child wants to act out, they'll probably just break down and may just do the thing of just giving you some hopefully signals or something if they're trying to communicate to you, if they're an autistic child, however, or they could do other things, but more on that piece later maybe. But just a different saying, to know the difference between the tantrum and meltdown, I want to just hopefully just lay out some of what to look out for, maybe, as well as not to look out for as such, but maybe just to understand more the differences between the two, so that hopefully, again, as I said, no misunderstandings. So on the tantrums, you've got for this is, number one, child might want to gain attention from you. Even if you choose to ignore the child, they'll do their very darn hardest, as I said, to kick, scream, yell, to be defiant against you. They'll do anything in their willpower just to, you know, even if they're not getting that attention, basically. And obviously sometimes in saying this, you know, you shouldn't reward their behaviors, you know, for any of these two. Obviously, number two, for this, obviously there must be a goal set in mind for that child to, you know, react in a tantrum stage. You know, it's goal orientated here, so, you know, regardless what it is, like I said, do not by any circumstances trying to give in and actually reward them for that behavior, because obviously that positive reinforcement needs to come in place with their behaviors around. Obviously, number three, as I said, as I can't stress it enough, it's behavioural based, so, you know, it's based on their everyday behaviours. Number four, as I said, also involves the kicking, screaming, yelling, ranting, and the like. Excuse me. Where am I up to? Number five. Usually a child can control a tantrum, so they'll eventually grow out of it once they, you know, hopefully reach into adult stage, if you properly, you know, use well, not forceful punishment, but a form of punishment that will actually tell them, show them, and tell them at the same time that you're not going to give in to that behaviour. Last but not least, and number six, is they're in control of their own behaviours. Meltdowns, however, on the other hand, to differentiate, is number one, they're being overwhelmed. Number two, they're obviously in a state of overdrive of sensory overload, as I said in the definitions. So too much sensory input and outputs going on in them, and it's hard to absorb all that information at once of what's going on. Number three, they may want to retreat somewhere so they can actually find a way just to maybe have their meltdown in private. But sometimes, you know, in the public eye, it's really hard, especially if they have a meltdown with that sensory overload on top of that, and, you know, you're thinking, oh, why the hell are everybody else is looking at me and my child, sort of thing. Another one is number four. They'll reach to that point, obviously, as I said, to that emotionally and sensory, emotional, and information overload. Number five, again, it may look similar to a tantrum, but with the exception of some body signals or body cues to give to you. Maybe they'll sign to you that they've had enough, like hands over ears. They may rock back and forth. They might hold on to you a bit closer if you were holding hands with the child. They might just, you know, start stimming. Stimming may come into play, basically. Number eight, as I said, the brain will go into the state of overdrive or overload that will then respond to that fight, flight, fright response for that child to lead to that meltdown. Number nine is, for some children, it can be a response to having a lot going on internally all at once, such as maybe stress or worry. Here's a classic example, as I said before earlier in the piece. If a child was transitioning from going into intermediate high school with all those changes of the routine, maybe, you know, some of their friends won't be at the same school, there's nothing similar for them, so everything is changing around them all at once, so they're trying to, you know, get over, or not get over it as such. Number 10 also in this is that they don't have full control of this, so once in a while you might have a child that will have meltdowns, regardless of the changes in their lives, regardless of what they're going through, be it, you know, as I said, transitioning from, you know, young child to adult, you're bound to have more meltdowns, but don't forever fret on this, because obviously, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a normal response, and not obvious, well, not normal, but you know what I mean, you know, in saying this. So no further ado, guys, basically this quickly ends, hopefully, a quick differentiation between a tantrum and a meltdown. You can smash the like button. I'll put some links up or something in the description below for you guys, based on, hopefully, some parts how to help you guys maybe with your child having a meltdown or a tantrum, and that it should be hopefully on one of my playlists that I've set up. But I'll list the playlist or what have you for you in the description below, maybe above me as well. If you would like to know more also, or just want to follow me on my social media sites, by all means, it's listed in the description below. Feel free to also subscribe to my channel if you want to join me on the bandwagon to know what I get up to, or what my life is like as an Aspie, or whatever reason you may want to show your support. And in doing so and showing your support, if you do decide to come on with me on the ride, regardless of the highs and lows, hopefully to be as realistic as possible for you guys, is to actually turn on the notification bells so you can keep up to date with the new content that's coming out, which I'm hoping sometime soon after, you know, Easter and my birthday period around Easter, that there'll hopefully be some bits of fun and games around. Also, I can't guarantee it, but like I said, as my schedule is always changing at this point of time. But as I said, keep on the lookout, because I'm always floating about it also on some social media groups. You know, some of you may have already seen me popping up and unannounced, you know, supporting you guys, but that's what it's all about, supporting the, you know, community of YouTube, regardless big or small. Even though, you know, we need to keep persevering regardless of it all, because I believe that we can get through this despite these everyday changes that's coming at us all the time of YouTube. So without further ado, guys, thanks for support, thanks for watching, do what you love what you're doing, don't forget to share these videos around, and I'll see you guys hopefully in the next one. So ciao for now.